B and S
Podcast.
Hey man, you wanna play some video games?
Let's go.
On your mark, get set, terrible.
Welcome to a specialty episode of the BNS Awesome Podcast. I'll be your host today, Clive.
I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
Come on. Clive Drexler.
All right, Clyde Drexler, what are we here to talk about? I think you want to talk about painting. I'd like to talk about your lack of knowledge of the lore, but we're going to talk about painting.
We will get to the lore, but we're going to do as you heard on the other episode, we're going to do like a 4-part, 3-part, we'll see how many part.
This part doesn't count. We're going to have some video. We'll have to bring in the cameras.
No, we'll figure it out though.
We'll figure it out. He says.
This is part 1 of the audio for the Warhammer 4-part thing. I guess we'll go with that. Hi. So I have started painting minis, and that's what we're going to start talking about. Sound good, Bob?
It's really hard to talk about this without visual aids.
Well, we'll just talk about what we use to paint with, and
I typically use painted brushes.
what kind of paint do you use?
I use genuine Citadel paints because, and I use, depending on what I'm painting, it depends on what I use for primer.
I was just going to ask, so I just did my first big piece that I painted. I showed you it, right? And I found that the primer was like that's your biggest part of the whole thing. Which primer are you going to use?
It depends on what method you're doing, I suppose.
Well, what is your top choice for primers? Like if you have to pick, what are you picking?
It depends. I know that's a really big comment. Depends what army I'm painting and what color.
Okay, but would you go with like a hobby paint, like specifically for the hobby, so like Citadel?
No,
Vallejo?
Typically not.
No, okay. Or there's 3M, Rust-Oleum. There's all that stuff. Is that what you usually use?
It depends. Rust-Oleum, I use a lot of the mattes or semi-mattes.
Okay. I've tried the other paints, but my favorite is probably the Citadel primer. And yeah, it's more expensive, but I just find that like your paints go on it so much nicer. Maybe that's just a me thing.
I don't know. It depends, like I say, on what I'm painting. I find that Rust-Oleum makes a very nice matte primer that's very receptive to other paint coats.
Does it?
When I'm painting Blood Ravens.
Oh, okay. You don't have any issues with it like bleeding through?
No.
Because I bought some other brands of paint, and that was the whole issue I had. Like I would paint something, and it would like almost create like a silky finish on it. So like when you would touch the other paint to it, it would like spread weird. It was super strange.
So that's why I always make sure to get a matte primer.
Yeah, no, and that's what I usually get. And it says that it's a matte primer on this other can of stuff, and it's
not.
It was awful. I did my entire zombie dragon like that. And that's why like it looks fine. Everybody else says like it looks good, but like to me, I'm so pissed off that I couldn't do it the way I wanted to. So it sucks, but it's good.
See, my Blood Ravens are painted to look like they've been through the ringer.
Yeah,
already. I'll just come over there with a visual aid for a moment, and I'll show you. See, I just give them a little bit of highlights, but I make the rest of them all dirty.
Oh, nice. Do you just use like what's it called on it?
Yeah, there's a champlain with a sword.
Oh, sweet.
That's old stuff. That's just stuff that's tabletop ready. It's 3 colors.
Yeah, as long as so that's the thing so like I'm 100% new to this. I've never really painted minis. You've been painting minis since you were 12, you said.
Yep, and I've improved slightly since then.
As long as it's slightly. That's all that matters. But like my friends, Matt and John, and you have all told me, like, man, you should start trying out Warhammer.
I believe I said don't try out Warhammer because it's an endless pit of despair.
No. You can't say that. You bought me my first model. You can't say that.
I thought you would enjoy it because you said I'd like to put models together. I never said play Warhammer competitively. Those words never came out of my mouth.
It's not how I feel, Bob. That's not how I feel. I feel like it was all your fault, and now I'm down this deep, dark path of Warhammering.
I'm going to grow a neck beard, get another 140 pounds of pure muscle. I'm going to look like a dwarf.
Pure
I'm gonna
Dorito muscle.
I'm going to braid my hair.
Just on one side. 2 braids.
Exactly.
But
You're
yeah.
going to say, let's go, boys.
Meat's
Oh my
back
God.
on the table. So, anyways,
Wetaworks is making high-end Games Workshop stuff now, as opposed to like Forge World never wasn't high-end enough.
Oh,
God damn New Zealand! That's all I have to say about that.
it's kind of crazy. Like, the prices of minis is unbelievable.
Oh yeah, and like
It's through the roof.
I guess I was gonna argue about this before in the lore, but maybe I'll see what I want to talk about. It's becoming more mainstream, and that's making me nervous.
That they're just going to get shittier quality?
That everything is going to go to shit because they're just going to try to get they're already doing that with the models and the prices going up. But
Yeah.
like, if you're going to just try to cater to normies, as I like to call them, the lore is going to suffer.
100%. But do you think, like, I'm very new.
You are the target. And you're like, no, I will not. I'm going to be Jack Sparrow.
I just find it, like, I have my one book is right beside me, but it's Age of Sigmar. Bob is not a fan of Age of Sigmar.
That is correct.
But, like, there is so much lore packed into those books. It's kind of unbelievable.
I don't believe it. Even though I have like, how many editions?
10 editions?
I got at least 7 different Space Marine codexes at this point. I don't believe it.
And do they change every time, like the lore codexes?
They just add more lore and tell different stories. They typically don't
I
retcon
gotcha.
things.
Well, that's good. So that's good here.
But like when it comes to actual rules, yeah, they always change
There,
a
yeah.
little bit.
They're-
Points, costs, and
Yeah. So if you didn't know what Warhammer is a tabletop strategy game. Right?
it is.
It is?
See, people always tell me it's a board game. I said, there's no board involved. It's a table. And then you know what they did for Leviathan? They
made
packed
a
in a
board.
board with it.
They put a board on there.
I was like,
I heard
motherfucker!
that. Bob was like, you sons of bitches!
It's not a board game. It's a tabletop game.
And then they fucked you.
And they put a board in there. They made a liar out of me.
And it's all about, like,
Friendship and happiness.
It's definitely not about that. You use measuring tapes and spacers and stuff, and you have certain distances your troops can move. Like
Turn-based strategy game.
Turn-based. I'm baby's first Warhammer trip, 100%. I've played maybe one true game and a couple like practice kind of games.
What, for 40K?
Yeah.
Which edition were you playing?
9th.
I hate 9th. Never played a single game. Thank God we're to 10th, which I also hate.
Well, now you're gonna have to play 10th with me, Bob. I'm sorry.
You know what edition I like? 3rd and 4th. Even 6th was okay, but then it was...
You even scared the dog with your analogy.
Dogs shouldn't fly planes.
Neither should what's his face,
Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford. But we let one, we gotta let them all. So I'm having fun, and honestly, what really started me off was painting. I've been really enjoying that, and I also bought a 3D printer.
Yeah, Ixnay on the print day. Ixnay on the print day.
I don't care. I feel like the way that Games Workshop has made it, kids can't get into this. That's one of my gigantic gripes with it.
See, the messed up thing is if you watch and wait, sometimes they put out things that I would consider, even though, you know, I mean, we're adults with somewhat disposable income.
Yes.
There are some deals they put out that are, I would consider not horrendous. Then you look at the price of some things and you're like, okay, you can get fucked.
Right?
So you get 3 essentially Primaris scouts,
Yeah.
with sniper rifles. I think they're called intercessors or something.
Okay.
I'm not big on the Primaris, knowing all the nomenclature, because you know me.
You stick to one, and that's your...
No, I think the regular Space Marines used to just call everything as it would be scouts with sniper rifles. Now they got intercessors or reavers with sniper rifles. But okay, so you get these essentially light armored scout Marines, but they're full Marines and not scouts, because that's how we roll now. You get 3 of those, and they want $70 for that. So they want $70 for 3 models.
Okay.
That seems...
As a 12-year-old boy, I don't know many 12-year-olds that can afford that.
No.
And honestly, for the price of it, that's insane.
And here's what's going to get crazier. You can get a box of 10 Primaris tactical Marines, whatever they call them, or maybe those are the intercessors, but 10 regular Marines with a whole bunch of options in the box.
$39.
I think they want 50. So you get 50 Marines. You get way more plastic for the price than the 3 models.
But they have a higher point value. It makes no sense to me. And that's what I'm trying to get at. So, like I said, I have a 3D printer. I do not print Games Workshop stuff. But there are STL files out there that are very similar and at a much more affordable rate. So, like, you could get ghouls for an army. I don't know which army, whichever army you would like.
See, I'm going to play the devil's advocate for those evil international Brits over there. How similar?
They're not. Actually, they're quite different. They're not exact.
They're quite different. Quite different.
Quite different. Anyways, but
anywho,
for $6, I can pick up that STL file, and there will be 3 different. There's 3 different model versions, right? $6. It costs me the time on my printer and my resin. A bottle of resin is $40 for a big 1-liter bottle. So if I break that down, say I print out 20 of them, I'm not even using 50 milliliters of resin. I was like, that works out to about, it has costed me to print a 20 figures, about $9. If say you want to factor in like even cost of the machine.
Are you trying to say that like the world is turning to piracy in tabletop games? What are you saying to me?
It's 100% what it is. And like I use my printer mainly to print D&D stuff. I have
nerd.
I'm fine with that. So it's just, to me, it's really frustrating to see that you can't even get your children into a game, even D&D. Like the book prices of D&D stuff, which is a lot more accessible than Games Workshop figures. Like,
you could just play Games Workshop role-playing games. You could just get those books. It's fine.
But then you only have books.
They also make video games. The Warhammer video games are great. Dawn of War, it's GOAT.
Yeah. Okay, but then I'm spending another $79.99.
Oh no! Those are old games now. You get them on Steam for cheap. Steam for cheap.
See, that's just like using the 3D printer. Got them cheap. But anyways, I will admit this: the Game Workshop ones, the quality can sometimes be better. Sometimes on the minis, but the quality can also be a lot shittier. There is some fantastic people out there making STL files that are second to none.
So a couple of years ago, they stopped making the pewter models, the pewter lead models.
Yeah,
and they replaced them with what they called fine cast resin. And that was just god awful. If you saw fine cast minis, you would be like, and people paid for this? And I'd be like, yes, people paid for it. And they were very upset, and it was just awful. Forge World has resin figures that have their issues, but they were miles ahead of this Finecast. This Finecast had like bubble holes in it and it chipped like that.
Really?
And it was super brittle and just awful and never came straight. It was just god awful, this Finecast. And it was out there for a couple of years. It's totally gone now, but
that's like the blemish for the miniature world, though. Like, I don't know. You saw how like detailed my printer does too.
I am not going to be accessory for your crimes against humanity.
No,
I have no affiliation with this man. I have not seen any miniatures he's talking about, but they look pretty good.
I gave you one for Christmas, and it is a figure. It's a Fallout figure.
T60 power armor with minigun,
and it's fantastic. Like, honestly, the detail on that thing is superb, and that's the kind of shit that I like. I want to see the detail. I don't know. It just, yeah. So,
I got some STL files that I don't know. Either I got to get a printer because I'm going to play both sides of this argument. I do buy Games Workshop miniatures because I like to support the company, even though they're being run by people that couldn't tell their ass from a hole in the ground.
Yep.
And have no idea what they're fucking doing. But some of the creators there are still struggling through. So I'd like to support the company that's given me so much fun over the years to a degree. But there are impressive third-party studios that make miniatures that Games Workshop refuses to make.
Right.
And I like some of them. Some of them look really good because there are characters they don't even make models for, and these third-party companies are standing up to make these models.
Yep. So
like, why would you make the rules for a model, and then you either have to kit bash or make a model yourself to represent it, or you have third-party people standing in, and then they're like, oh, you can't make it. Well, make the model then.
Yeah, that's my issues with Game Workshop, is that you're not getting what you're paying for. And it's hard for me to support. Like I said, I have models. I've bought models. But it is hard to support something like that when it's just not feasible for a younger audience to actually get into it. Like this is me coming at it from a brand new standpoint, like as fresh into it as you could be. When you were 12, how much did it cost for a box of models?
When I got started with the Tyranids, I think it was $120 for the full army box and $30 for the codex, and I was good to go. That was it.
And how many point army?
That was about 1,500 points.
And that's a fair size army.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need much bigger. 2,000 point is kind of what they run right now.
Well,
but that's a large army.
When you play a 2,000 point game, you're not going to finish it on split night. So why not play? They got this new game I've never played before. It's Combat Patrol and all these other little side games going on. Play a 500 point game. Screw it. You might get done in a couple hours.
Right? I just have a demon dragon and a couple ghouls, and that's all I need for Flesh Eater's Court. But yeah, it is crazy.
We played 6,000 point games, and
that's
you never finish them.
No, that's a huge game.
It goes on for days and days and days, and then finally, it's like, oh no, we got to move the table.
Right? But as you were saying, like, the craziness of like the better quality of the prints too, like, because they won't make them. So I was saying, like, I have Flesh Eater's Court. They have a big zombie dragon, right? So like
you have a very similar zombie dragon.
Yeah, but the box model is like this puny little thing, and it's not like intimidating or anything. And then when you look at the one that I have printed, you're like, wow, like that's huge. Like, it's a huge model. And it maybe costs $40 to print.
I did notice that when I was looking through, when you were holding that gun to my head, I was trying to figure out the lizardmen, and I looked over to get more lizardmen. I was like, huh. I was like, Scott's model is much larger and much more imposing than the one they got on the store.
It's quite unbelievable, eh? So yeah, no, I'm up I'm up for debate on whether I should support Games Workshop or if I should support a creator that is putting in time and effort into making the game better and not gouging people on price.
See, this is where I would refer to that meme of the what was that company? It's the taco commercial with the little Spanish girl. She's like, "Why not both? Why not hard shell and soft shell?"
Yeah, no, exactly. That's how I feel. So it's a toss-up. But yeah, for paints, to get back onto the paint subject,
painting and modeling.
what is like? So you have a small mini. What is your like average paint time? You think? How hard are you hitting these? I'm not talking like a general or a commander. I'm talking like your base Space Marine.
Okay, so when I paint, typically I'm usually painting in scale. So I'm painting probably about 3 to 10 miniatures at the same time. So I'll go through and I will paint all the features, put that through the line, then I'll go back and start the next thing and the next thing. So I can't really go by time. I usually probably takes me maybe 4 hours to do, 3 to 10 miniatures.
Okay. I find it depends on which paint you're using also. Like this new army painter stuff, they have speed.
Boo! Boo! He's supporting a third-party industry. Boo!
It's fantastic paint.
Boo! Where are you buying this paint? Where are you buying this paint, Scott?
Amazon.
Oh, he's not supporting the local shops in Lethbridge. Boo!
Oh, yes.
Boo!
The local shop that's 2.5 hours away.
Boo!
It's honestly though, I've been thinking like about opening up a small little shop for that kind of stuff, because there's seems to be enough people in our community that I think you could, even just on paint, just have paint, to be able to get paint right away when you want it would be great.
He's a madman.
Madman.
He's a madman.
So
next thing you know, he's going to be doing gray market deals like me. I mean, what?
Pardon me. So yeah, I've really been enjoying the painting aspect of it. I have painted both Citadel and this Army Painter's speed paint. And for like the everyman, like that's not a fantastic painter, I can bang out, say, 15 ghouls in probably 2 hours. I think. Three color. I think that's about... Yeah, I could probably do about 15 of them. I've got a little paint thing set up in my shop now. It's nice. It's relaxing. I don't know. What do you think of it? Do you enjoy painting?
It depends. I hate painting vehicles.
Vehicles are kind of a pain in the ass, especially when you're doing like every little bolt.
I just hate painting vehicles. It's just a thing because it's so big.
Yeah. Do you have any large scale models?
Do I have any large scale? What would you consider a large scale model?
Like, I don't know, like this, I don't know, the size of the T61.
I have several large scale models.
For Warhammer?
Yes.
That size? Okay. And like...
Carnifexes are bigger than that. Lots of stuff's bigger.
How long does one of those take you?
It depends. Okay, so Tyranids are biological. So typically when I'm painting Tyranids, I paint their skin and sinew just a shade of red with different highlights and different inks. Yep. And then I paint their carapace the blue with its... So that could be minimum if I'm just dry brushing. And then coming in there with like the green eyes and the teeth to get the 3 colors. That's not much, depending.
Oh, okay. See, and I'll spend like a lot more time on a big model. Like my big dragon that I did was, man, I probably put 10 hours into it, 8 to 10 hours. Like, and I'll just sit there and I'll just meticulously paint like each like little rib piece or each little thing of flesh and like add a little bit of yellow onto it just to make it look like it's kind of rotten and stuff.
Tabletop, baby. 3 colors.
I don't know. I just really enjoy painting minis. Me and Bob and my friends Matt and John, there was a tournament where we live, and like I live
in Spar. I mean,
yeah, but I was looking through at like individual people's paintings, and it's kind of crazy the quality difference between people.
Oh yeah, like I said, there's tabletop quality. It's in all fairness, I'm just gonna throw this out there. Between our group of local players where I live, further up the valley,
yeah,
this is gonna be very upsetting. I held the distinction of being the only one who had a fully painted tabletop ready army for years.
Really?
Like others, like you would have like mostly painted, but there'd be some units that weren't still. And I saw that at the tournament too.
Same. I saw that too. I was like, oh, I'm surprised.
I was like, oh, so like that's fine. They're letting that slide, but yeah, like I've got a couple different armies I've used over the years, and then basically Dawn of War came out, and I saw the Blood Ravens, and I was like, oh my god, I have to play these guys. These guys are gonna be my go-to from now on. I got to play Blood Ravens.
This is 100% what I needed.
Well, like I had when you bought a paints back then, they would give you miniatures, and you got Space Marines.
What? Really?
They still, sometimes they do that still.
Oh, okay.
You get the paint set, and it comes with a couple miniatures in it.
Oh, okay. That's kind of cool, though. I like that.
So I had 5 Space Marines, and then I was somewhere else, and there was a Terminator captain. I was like, okay, so then I had a Terminator captain, a couple of Space Marines, and somehow I just ended up with a Black Templar army out of that. So I had my Tyranids, the Black Templars. One guy was like, well, I'm sick of playing Tau because they're awful. You want to buy my Tau army? I said, sure. So then I had a Tau army at that point. So I had a couple Warhammer armies floating around at that point to play with. And then the Blood Ravens came out, and I was like, ooh, I'll paint up this Dark Angels captain as a Blood Raven. And then next thing you know, I was painting more and more and more, and I had a fully painted Blood Ravens army.
So out of all of the armies you've painted, do you have a favorite? Because I find that certain armies I've tried to paint, I'm like, I'm not into this. I find some that are very like dull. Like there's just not much happening with them.
I think the Space Marines are by design easy to paint.
Yes.
Because of their design and their rounded edges and everything.
Yeah.
Everything's like a clean surface basically with a little bit of accents making them easy. Tau are similar in that regard.
Okay.
For painting.
Do you prefer to paint the easy though? Or would you rather the complex one that's like going to take you a bit?
See, I will paint. I will paint, and I don't mind painting, but my love of Warhammer has very little to do with the painting.
Okay. See, and I really enjoy the painting. That's what it's kind of crazy that I'm into the painting as much as I am, because I'm not
like if I was gonna say what I like about the modeling, I would say doing conversions and kit bashes is more
cool.
entertaining than
I've
painting.
seen some cool stuff with that too, where we're making like some like really awesome stuff.
Like I've got thousands upon thousands and thousands of spare bits filled up in bins.
Really?
Yeah, like
that's crazy.
Okay. So back in the day when you bought a kit, there would be options, right?
Oh yeah.
And if you don't use the options, just put them in your little bit box.
And now your little bit box is a gigantic Tupperware.
It's not just like if I showed you what was going on with my Warhammer, you'd scream of a heart attack and fall over. And I'd be like, "Well, Scott's dead."
A good heart attack?
You'd be like, "Ah!" That would be that. I'm scaring his dog with my literal showings of what would happen.
It's okay, buddy. It's okay, buddy. Don't pee on me.
He's like this man in the orange sweater is just screaming all the time like a psychopath.
Fucking crazy.
But no, like bits, when you have them, they're golden.
Do you paint your bases?
Okay, so it depends on the army, but typically I put the brown ring around the base, and I will sometimes sand or flock, but a lot of times I would just do the ring.
Okay. It's just a brown ring?
On a lot of the Games Workshop miniatures, they want you to paint the base a little bit, so I'll just put the ring around the side edge.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no.
And then underneath, depending on the army, I'll put what squad they belong in, so you can keep track of them.
I gotcha. Yeah, so you're not throwing them all around. No, I don't know. For me right now, my main goal is get an army painted, put together, player ready.
Well, I think you have that for Sigmar, don't you?
I'm close. I'm still not all the way there. I still need a couple guys. I would have been ready for the tournament if...
I'd still like to talk about that tournament. I'm very upset with how that went down and what happened to you.
Yeah, I'm not upset.
I am.
So what did it... I'll even get into that a little bit. So what happened was I contacted a guy. I found out that they were doing a tournament, like a local tournament. I was super pumped about it because I don't have much to do with any of Warhammer. So I contacted my other two friends, Matt and John. Talked to you also. I was like, hey, they're having this tournament. We put in, like, we were all going to do it. Then we found out that all of our emails that we were sending to this fella were going to his spam box. So we were all trying to figure out, like, oh, like, when we register, like, where do we, like, send this money? Like, I don't want to just, like, send money to a random thing. So finally he had ended up getting back, and his name's Dayton. He was awesome, honestly. It was my fuck up, I think. Anyways,
busy cutting down trees. That's what I was doing.
Bob was cutting.
I was in a different province cutting down trees.
So yeah, no, and it just sucked. So there was 2 spots left. I was not ready either, which is my own thing. Would you been ready? Do you have an Age of Sigmar army?
Oh, I 100% know the rules out the refresh. You know, even though they changed it to a totally different system, I'm totally ready.
But do you have an Age of Sigmar army?
I got Lizardmen.
Oh, okay, he does. So, anyways, that was the plan. Go there, go play. Find out the day before they closed down all, like, to put in your stuff, that there was only 2 spots left. I was like, shit. So rather than me play, who's never played, I thought I'd talk to John and Matt, and I said, hey, they were both kind of a little upset. They were like, well, this kind of sucks because, like, you were the one that wanted to do this. Like, it was, which is whatever. The money was going to a good cause. I was happy about that. So anyways, I let them go and do the tournament, and I stayed out, which I would have been annihilated, I believe. So that sucks, but
damn power gamers. That's all I gotta say about that. People who power game lists are awful.
Yeah.
I play a lore-friendly Space Marine army whenever I play against Eric, and it's somewhat balanced. Those damn Eldar, that's all I gotta say about that. Orcs, less bad, but the Eldar, I that's the thing. When it comes to Eldar, I have some Eldar, and their lore is great, but to play against them, like, my God.
Not great. not great. Not happy times.
I appreciate what they can do, having played them myself a couple times, though, but, like, they're balling. Uthway all the way.
Uthway all the way. So I'm slowly starting to get into the lore, and it seems to me that everybody that gets into the lore is like, oh, this is the shit we fuck with. Like, it's really well made, really well done. From Matt and John.
Well, like,
also.
And that's what makes me nervous about all these normies getting involved.
Yeah, and Matt and John are like you. They're 100% in. They've been playing it for years, since they were little.
Well, like,
not little, but
I'll just throw this out there. Warhammer, as they point out, is like the darkest possible future for humanity. It is the worst possible version of the future where humanity still exists. But even though they still say there are still bright, shiny days in the 41st millennium, there are good people in this horrible future, and that's what makes it compelling.
So,
like the Imperium, the main characters, the main faction, they are not the good guys.
They're definitely not the good guys. They're the Amazon.
There are good people in the Imperium, but they are not the good guys.
No. So I'm looking forward into getting more into it, I think.
Well, like,
is what
when it comes to lore, I loved a lot of chapters, but like the Blood Ravens, their whole story going on is, I was like, these guys are great.
See, and like that's what I like about the Flesh Eaters Court. They're deranged. They think that they are like these like merciful knights and like gallants and like they're a happy crew. But really, they're just like, they're ghouls and zombies, and they're just eating people's faces. I love the derangedness of that. And I'll be honest, they are fantastic. Like, I really enjoy painting them. They have like they have a lot to paint. if that makes sense. like I'm probably using eight colors on
Oh my God, he's going above tabletop ready.
That's like, have you ever seen Office Space? The required amount of flair is 8, Sarah. Jeff over there has 27 pieces of flair. Well, do you want me to have 27 pieces of flair or 8? If the minimum's 8, I'm putting on the minimum. I'm Jeff. I'm the Jeff of this situation. So, I think a good idea is I'm going to talk to Matt and John, and I'm going to get them over maybe, and we'll do a little podcast, and I'll make this all into one.
Yeah, I'll bring some minis up, and
we can.
What about like with these army paints? Are you doing different techniques? I see how you're doing like inking. What about dry brushing and all that?
No dry brushing. You can do that at the end with the army painter stuff, but I haven't done any dry brushing. I keep saying it, I'm very new to this. My friend Matt was nice enough. He gave me a Citadel How to Paint book. Painting with Citadel paints is an experience.
That is a accurate statement.
Yes, and I have done the Citadel way with some of my Space Wolves.
See, that's the thing is like there's the way to do it, but I was like, I read the manual, I looked at the manual, and then I took the manual and I threw it over my shoulder.
I could see that. Like it's like for somebody just getting into it, it's intimidating as hell.
There are ways to cheat.
Yeah. So that's what I really like about
and that's that I'm pointing out that I've read the rules, thrown the manual away, and there's ways to cheat. That kind of goes to my whole painting philosophy.
Yeah.
As you may have guessed.
So that's what I really like about the army painter stuff. It's called speed paint for a reason. You can.
What's the reason?
It's very tedious.
Oh,
See?
it's ironically. I gotcha.
Yeah. So it gives me a sense of like, oh man, that looks really nice. And it has the tendency of like to float into like the cracks and stuff, like the null paint. Like
the inks, null oil. That's
null
what you're talking
oil,
about.
that's the one. Yeah, you don't have to use the null oil. Because you get like the deeper, like the darker crevices and stuff without having to go through and null oil it and stuff like that.
So you're saying the speed painter kind of acts like a wash and a paint.
Exactly. That's exactly what it acts like, which is kind of sweet, and it makes things quite easy, actually. Pricey, yes. Not as pricey as Citadel, I don't think. I got a 10-pack, and it's got 10 different colors in it, and I want to say it was around $60.
So that is a lot less expensive than Citadel paint.
Oh, Citadels are what, $20 a paint?
I think it's more expensive every time, especially if you get one of the bigger bottles. It's more expensive every time I walk in there.
Oh, man.
I was like, I'd like one bottle of paint, please. I said, we want your firstborn son.
I'm a eunuch. Oh. Can we have Lefty?
No.
See this little pouch around my neck? That's where I carry him. So, yeah. Anyways, so I think this is a really... Man, we might have to do a two-parter on the paint, even.
Yeah, I think we will. We can bring up models and make comparisons, and then everyone will criticize each other's painting skills.
Yeah. So anyways, for the BNS Awesome Podcast, this has been our first episode of Paint Talk of Warhammer.
Yes.
And there will be more to come. I think we could release this
As a series? Probably.
Okay. Anyways, thank you for listening. There's probably going to be a next part on this.
And probably some video.
We're going to put it all together in the audio, and then maybe we can do some...
I have to go back and paint up some nicer models to make myself try to look better at painting.
We can do some time-lapse painting, too.
Time-lapse?
Time-lapse. Hey, I got an iPhone. I can do whatever I want to do.
Alrighty, I guess we're doing time-lapse.
Okay. So, for the BNS Awesome Podcast, keep painting?
Keep painting.
Okay.